the bill collector soon. Feels like I'm living in a country song. Everything in life going wrong. Been down and out for far too long. Feels like I'm living in a country song. Looks like every door's closing in my face. I'm a one-legged man in a butt-kicking race. Lord, I could use some grace. It's gonna take a miracle to find a place. It's gonna take a miracle to find a place. Feels like I'm living in a country song, with everything in life going wrong. And down and out for far too long. Feels like I'm living in a country song. I know when destruction comes our way, it's clearing out what doesn't need to stay. There's always gonna be a delay between when we receive and when we pray. But Lord, I just got to say, feels like I'm living in a country song, with everything in life going wrong. And down and out for far too long. Feels like I'm living in a country song. Lord, if this is you preparing ground, please show me there's hope to be found. I'm praying someday my life will rebound. Until then, keep me safe and sound. Feels like I'm living in a country song, with everything in life going wrong. Been down and out for far too long. Feels like I'm living in a country song. Oh, I'm living in a country song. Oh, I'm living in a country song.
You say you're afraid to fail. Risk is what success will entail. Great things require great sacrifice. Every great thing comes with a hefty price. Failure's just a learning opportunity. Lose the fear, set your dreams free. Step out and take the risk. You must go big or go home. Success or bust. Don't keep your gifts inside. Don't let fear make you hide. It may take 100 million tries or more, but if you keep going, one day you'll score. Failure's just a learning opportunity. Lose the fear, set your dreams free. Step out and take the risk. You must go big or go home. Success or bust. Don't keep your gifts inside. Don't let fear make you hide. It may take 100 million tries or more, but if you keep going, one day you'll score. Failure's just a learning opportunity. Lose the fear, set your dreams free. Step out and take the risk. You must go big or go home. Success or bust. Dreams and wishes are safer than reality. Real success requires that you be willing to try again. That's how you turn failure into a win. Failure's just a learning opportunity. Lose the fear, set your dreams free. Step out and take the risk. You must go big or go home. Success or bust. Failure doesn't mean you quit. Failure means you haven't mastered it. Whatever it is you're trying to do, don't let failure take it from you. Figure out where you went wrong. That's how you'll start growing strong. Study what happened and learn. This is how your success you'll learn. Failure's just a learning opportunity. Lose the fear, set your dreams free. Step out and take the risk. You must go big or go home. Success or bust. Failure's just a learning opportunity. Lose the fear, set your dreams free. Step out and take the risk. You must go big or go home. Success or bust.
Read me a book just the other day, taught me to see things a whole new way. Said my problems were just opportunities, if I could only learn to change the way I see. So I counted up my assets just like it said to do. Here's what I found that I can offer you. I've got 30 things I can't sell. Car in the driveway that's broke as hell. $75,000 in debt. A college degree that ain't been paid off yet. One sterling silver necklace a friend gave to me, and 39 years experience living in poverty. Well, I scratched my head at the bits I found, but I didn't quit yet, the advice seemed sound. Woo! They told me to keep a tally and to take measure of all the things I found, my hidden treasure. So I counted up my assets just like it said to do. Here's a few more things I can offer you. I got a voice like an angel, you can order it to go. I can write you a song, poem, or book, you know. I can teach you to paint or to draw if you please. I can speak to a large group or small with great ease. I can offer a couch to the wealthy who seek a unique experience, living poor for $5,000 a week. Woo! Felt so much better as I wrote down this letter. All I need now is people who pay. A little money goes a very long way, and maybe this'll be a great story to tell. If only I can find someone who'll buy the things I can sell. Ooh, won't somebody please buy the things I can sell?
Yeehaw, y'all! Let's get going with our drawing tonight. So let me pull up the Forest Castle. Yay! We got stage 4 going on here. By the time we were done, we should see significant changes to our painting. And as always, it's an interactive, so you get to give us input on what you would like to see. Not that there's many people here yet. I'd kind of hoped we'd given people a little more time. So I'm going to turn off some of the background noise so I can focus on one element to work on while I wait for people to get in here. and just kind of focus on, because part of the thing they had asked to work on last week was the trees. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to be working on trees tonight. The crows aren't nearly visible enough. I really want to do some work on them and make them more visible eventually. But for now, we'll just focus on a tree and get started. I do want to show you something really cool that I learned to do over this past week. You know, one of the things about art, as it is, yes, stragglers, fashionably late, and all that good stuff. One of the things that I have learned to do in Photoshop is to create specialized brushes. So, for instance, let's say I want to create a tree brush. And I have a tree over here. I just want to create a brush that is a tree. So I go over here and I copy our little tree guy. Yep, make sure I've got that one. So, Control C, I'm going to put it in a new file. Thought y'all might appreciate learning this technique. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a white background behind it. And then I'm going to turn this thing black and white. Easy for me to say, right? Yeah, there we go. And I want to up the black, edit, image adjustment, levels. And we're going to watch how this works. Okay, so now that I've got that done, I'm going to select the whole thing, edit, and I'm going to define a brush preset. And it's called Tree Stamp. Okay, so as you can see, it just basically gives me a tree. And now when I select this brush over here, Tree Stamp, boop. Oh, you know what? I should get out of that. I'm going to show you how this works. Over here, we're going to pop a new layer in. I'm going to Control D to stop selecting that small, tiny area. And I'm going to pick a tree-ish color. Something a little more brown, mahogany-ish. Okay, so now I'm also going to adjust the size of my brush. So it's going to be 100 pixels. Whoop, nope, that's not what I wanted. Boop, there's a tiny tree. If I make it bigger, 401, boop, tree, 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 tree. Ain't that cool? Hey, Rob! No worries, no worries. But that is how you make a tree brush. And look at that. Perfect replicas. And I can make them bigger. Boop, boop, boop. All over the place. I'm going to undo that because, you know, it's not exactly what I want. But I just wanted to show you all that cool trick because it may come in handy later. I may never use it again. We don't know. But I'm pretty sure we'll find good uses for it, especially if we want to create leaves or anything detail and we don't want to have to repeat ourselves a billion million times over. So speaking of which, I want that tree to come back here because we are going to focus on blending it. This is true, it is an art stream, not a math stream. You are not required to be mathematically inclined in order to attend this stream. I certainly wasn't when I first started working in art. In fact, math and I were not even, we were rivals. It was my mortal enemy. I loathed and despised math. because it gave me problems, and it was the only subject in my education that gave me trouble. And it made me feel stupid because I didn't understand that if you're struggling, it's actually good. It means you're being really challenged. But to me, it just felt like failure. And I didn't have the right mindset to appreciate that failure is just a learning opportunity. And I didn't have any adults in my life who encouraged me to see it that way. In fact, it was treated as there's something wrong if you're failing. Whereas, personally, I would rather see a kid not getting straight A's because it means they are being challenged, not fully mastering, you know. And if they are getting straight A's, maybe it means they're not being challenged enough. Maybe it means we need to work harder. 3s, 7s, 12s, 40s, and multitudes. Yes. Did you go? Well, multiplying the loaves and the fishes is part of faith, you know. Multiplication is something Jesus very much dealt with. Of course, you know, he had a little help from outside, so. But he was very interested in multiplication. If you look at all the things he did, it's quite miraculous. Miraculous how he managed all of the things he did. I'm going to bump up that smudge tool a little. It's driving me crazy. It's not quite smudging enough. Although the tree's texture is looking nice, I will say that. There. Just draw that pigment on out of there. How is your evening going, Rob? How is everything? How's the family? I noticed you did, and congratulations on this, reach enough subscribers and enough watch hours that you could conceivably monetize, but have chosen not to for your own personal reasons, which I can definitely appreciate. It can tend to distract away and make it to where you're chasing views and watch hours instead of either enjoying the experience for yourself or, you know, having the courage to explore areas you'd like to explore. You don't want to disappoint people. I am nowhere near monetization on any scale, so I don't have to worry about that problem right now. Just spend an hour riding around with your son who's learning to drive. Oh, that's fun. I take it you survived the experience. That's the important thing. You both did, apparently. So, which, you know, there's something to be said for that. Driving is something that I'm not overly fond of doing, actually. I theoretically can. I simply prefer not to. Your leg is sore from pushing down against the floorboard. Yeah, I can imagine. So many ways for things to go wrong when you're driving a car. And I guess, you know, when you're younger and you're learning it, you don't really think about that because you have teenage invincibility instilled into you. But when you're an older adult and you learn to drive as that older adult and you don't have that sense of invincibility built into you, you're very much aware of how mortal you are. Yeah, that makes it harder. Harder to let go and trust that God's got you covered. God may have me covered, but do the people on the road know that? He's doing pretty good. He waited until he was 18 before he started. That's good. I honestly, I do think it's better. In some ways, because at 16, you're just so reckless and so unaware of consequences as a general rule. Like, you just, impulse control is a struggle for a 16-year-old. Because the part of the brain that really puts that into play hasn't even snapped into place yet. The trees are really cool. Do you see them finished and then work towards that, or do you see them coming together? It's really, I see them coming together as I use the techniques. I start kind of working in a direction and see if I like how it looks, and then if I don't, I'll pull it in a different direction. But yeah, that's, I know where I'm headed with a tree. I know what I want it to basically look like. But the type of tree that it ends up becoming is kind of one of those things that happens as I go. I don't necessarily decide that ahead of time. Like whether it's going to be an evergreen or a more different kind of tree, What's the word? There's a word. There's a word that I would like to find. I want to say, I think it's deciduous, but I'd have to stop art and look that up. And I'm feeling particularly lazy at this moment. Hey, Linda! Tell Tom I said hi in return. Well, this is going to be the absolute last art stream from West Des Moines that I will do. At least for the foreseeable future, because my start date has officially been set for tourism coordinator position to being Monday the 30th. So Ubi and I will be leaving West Des Moines Sunday, arriving there in Morris, Minnesota that Sunday, getting ourselves checked into the motel, and then we will be starting work, both of us, that Monday, which is pretty cool. Kind of excited about our new chapter. I think these are deciduous. Coniferous, I think, are the ones that are evergreen style. And these are definitely not evergreens. Because, haha, they don't have their leaves. They're naked trees. Because it's the start of winter. As we decided in the last session. Yes, we are quite happy about it. I mean, I am gonna miss having me around so much, and I am going to miss being part of her daily life the way we have been. But I will say that it's In some ways, it's probably better, you know. God has a plan for it all, and I trust his plan to be way better than mine. I don't always understand his plan, I will grant you, but his plans are always better than mine. We're going to drag this down a little bit more. Drag that root system out. Check to make sure our background, that it makes sense still. Yeah, see how that tree is now popping up out of the ground? We don't want that. I mean, there are times when the root systems do pop up above the ground. That's not what I'm looking for here. So we're going to erase that part. Something you always want to check and make sure when you're working in layers is that your layer is cohesive in terms of the story you've been telling visually. Does it make sense? So the minute it stops making sense, that's the minute your viewer's mind goes, huh? What the heck is that? And then it breaks their immersion. You pull them out of the world you've built and into asking questions, which is not what you want. It's kind of like if you think of art as a good story, a really great piece of art is a good story. And every good story pulls you out of the ordinary world into the extraordinary world in that story's pages. And the rules of the story for the reader's mind to stay engaged are that it has to make sense. It doesn't have to be realistic in terms of what the modern world is or how things work in the real world. That's not a requirement. But what is a requirement is that it make sense to the reader's mind. The rules have to be clear. And art is like that too. Whatever world you're building needs to make sense to the viewer. Even Salvador Dali's paintings, which are surrealist, they make dream sense. They don't make sense in the real world, but they make sense in terms of it being a dream-like landscape. So that's why they work. There. Happy little tree. Nothing you say or do makes sense. That's not true. As Karen says on a regular basis, none of this is a surprise to God. It is quite true. Nothing in our lives is a surprise to God. However surprising we may find it to be. And quite often, that is exactly what I find it to be, is a huge surprise to me. How rude he did not ask my opinion when he created this world. Nor did he consult me for my expertise when he designed my life. Very rude. No, just kidding. I'm actually grateful because, trust me, as messed up as I am in the head, the world would be an even worse place if I were in charge of designing it, so to speak. Can't have that. No way. Alright, there we go. That's our next tree that we'll work on. We're going to turn this one that we just dabbled with off so that I can focus on that background tree. That we're going to work on. I don't think most men do well multitasking, to be fair. You guys are built for combat. Combat, you can't afford to multitask on a battlefield. You kind of got to focus on what you're doing with single-minded devotion and make sure your task gets accomplished. Otherwise, you end up dead. Bad thing. I don't think anybody wants to end up dead. As one general put it, I think it was General MacArthur, put it, it is not your job in war to die for the cause. Nobody wins awards for that. I mean, nobody, I don't want you dying for the cause. I want you to make the other guy die for his cause. Single-minded delusion. Yeah. Well, you know. See, when I was doing tech support way back in the day, I learned how Windows operated. And when I did, I discovered that I had unlocked the secret to the difference between men and women and how they think, and why it is that men think we're illogical, when in fact we are not illogical. We just have a different kind of logic in our brain. See, men think we're illogical because we don't operate the same way they do. Ours is a more complex kind of logic that takes into account relationships as a primary factor. But anyway, so getting back, I discovered this because he was explaining to us how DOS worked. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with DOS in this chat. I know Ubi is, but I don't know if the rest of you are. So DOS was really, really, really good at what it did. It didn't do much, but it was really good at it. But to get it to do what it would do, you had to know the exact right command. You had to give it the exact right command. It did not take hints. It did not take suggestions. It was not extremely user-friendly, or really user-friendly at all, which is why a lot of people hated it, especially in comparison to Apple. So then they built Windows on the top of DOS. And Windows was a much friendlier operating system. Windows was busy trying to anticipate your needs. And so it would run 50 different processes in the background that you didn't even see. And eventually, because it was trying to be so accommodating to every need that the user might have, it would use up all its resources, crash out, and have to be rebooted. That was what was happening with Windows 98. It was a little too user-friendly, a little too backwards compatible to be successful as an operating system. And that, in a nutshell, is a lot of women. We get overwhelmed with all of the tasks that we're trying to do, all the people we're trying to accommodate, crash out, go berserk for a little while. If you just give us space and let us reboot, we're fine. But unlike men who don't multitask very well, they task switch, women are built for multitasking. That's because, you know, childcare kind of requires it. You can't tell little Timmy, I'm sorry, little Timmy, let me put you on hold for a minute while I attend Janie and Jimmy over here. Otherwise, you end up with some dead kids eventually. Just doesn't work very well. You have to learn to multitask. You like to disappoint one woman at a time? Yes, absolutely. See, I have a theory. You know, I know that Scripture is absolutely true, but Scripture says that Solomon was the wisest man on the planet, but how wise could you possibly be to take on 999 wives? Like, seriously, most men can't handle one woman, let alone 999 of them coming at you. I do not think that was a very wise maneuver on his part at all. It was bound to end in disaster. I don't want a threesome. If I wanted to disappoint two people at the same time, I'd just call my parents. Yeah, unfortunately, calling your parents is not an option currently. Unless you've got a speed dial to heaven. Yeah. All I have to do to disappoint two people at the same time is just be in the same room as my siblings. I don't have to work very hard at all. It is almost inevitable that one of them will be disappointed with me. Thus, I have given up worrying about it. I don't really like the way that tree is coming together, so I'm going to erase the top of it. We are going to start a little fresh. Yeah. Oh, I forgot. I still had it on the tree stamp. Boop. There's a tree. I love my tree stamp. I'll have to use it. I'll have to create a project where I can use it more often. You have it a haircut? Yes, yes, I gave it a trim there. I was like, hey, you're getting a little wild on me, bud. We gotta tame you down. Tree says, no, I will never become tame. I'm a wild tree. Fear me, roar. No, just kidding. If your tree is saying fear me, roar, you probably have more issues than just, you know. Hopefully your tree is not getting out of hand like that. There we go. That's better. Now we've got some more pigment on it. It's easier to come in here. Oh, that's part of it, too. Its opacity is at 60%. Opacity matters. It's how visible it is. How much of it you can see. You really should have taken a nap. Yeah. Sorry. I know we got you caffeine, but that probably isn't compensation for actual sleep. You do need to watch that. You're gonna have to get your sleeping patterns back to a more traditional schedule, since you'll be working days. It's gonna be interesting. Do 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 do. Just call me the tree lady. This tree is kind of nicely coming together finally. What have you got going on in your life, Linda? How are things with you and Tom going? That's nice. Isn't that nice? That's nice. Yeah. That's the tree that we just worked on. Happy with where it's at. Move on to another tree. Oh tree, will you let me be? Hanging in, still dazed. Well, Linda, if you were not dazed at this point, I would truthfully question your sanity. You guys suffered a major loss. I mean, no joke. Give yourself grace for sure. I don't know that you go back to normal ever, because you can't after that. You're a changed person. That kind of stuff doesn't, it's not about getting over it or about it ever really, the ache ever really going away. It's more about learning to live life with that ache present. In a sense, when you lose somebody that close to you, especially your own kid, you have lost almost a limb. You know, it's like being a paraplegic. You know, you've lost a limb and you've got to learn to live without that limb. But the fact that it's absent is always present in your mind. Went for your PET scans today. Oof. Yeah, that's a long drive. A lot of stuff. Hopefully they come back good. Hopefully. Or more to the point, hopefully they do what they're supposed to do, which is turn off the other stuff so I can see what's going on here. One tree at a time. I don't know if you've noticed, but that's how I tend to work, is let's focus on one thing at a time. So if I focus on too much in every other direction, I forget what I'm doing. That's good. I hope so. But yeah, don't, grieving is, I think a lot of people have a mistaken thought about what grief is, but it's not like a process you get through. I think it's just a process of learning to adapt to the new world that you are living in. And to find positive things that you can do with the pain. Dutch. It keeps trying to bring up my tree brush, but I don't need my tree brush right now. Go away, tree brush. You're not needed yet. But you just created me and I want to be useful. I know, I'm sorry. It was fun creating it, though. I'm really glad that I took the time to do a little investigation into how custom brushes are made. Because it's worth doing if you're going to be doing a lot of art in Photoshop, if you're going to be doing a lot of detail work.
Using my child's life over my career, I made my fair share of mistakes. I'm no saint, for heaven's sake. I admit I missed a lot of opportunities due to my fears and insecurities. But my current financial condition is at least in part due to my mission to put people over profits in life, accepting that this will cause me strife. Today's a new opportunity to change our current society. The help you get today can get things on their way.
I spent decades searching for truth, breaking free of lies I believed in my youth. I'm no longer eager to participate.
There we go. Okay, so we are back in our art scene. Man, I don't know what happened. The computer just decided to be a pain in the assets for some reason. Yeah, I know, right, Brian? I really should have a good tech guy on call. It'd be amazing if I had one of those. But, alack and alas, I think I'd have to pay for him, and, you know, they tend to be pretty pricey. Yeah. It's, to be fair to her, we got her in 2020. So she is clocking 5 years, and I have put her through a lot of paces. I do a lot of graphic work on her. So her memory, her processors are constantly churned. She's just probably getting up in age and really needs to be retired soon, but that we'll have to wait until paychecks come through, and it will probably be done in stages, not all at once either. What I really want to do is get a much bigger solid state drive, because the one that I've got is minuscule, and I think that's also part of the problem. I think it's running out of resources. Save the trees, exactly. Save the trees! You can't let the trees be lost, man. A whole forest can't live without trees. There can be no forest without trees. It would be a tragedy if we had... Well, you can't technically have a forest without trees. I mean, come on. And then you just have open ground. You don't have anything. That's no fun. At least in my opinion. Not that anybody voted for my opinion. Or asked. But I'm going to give it anyway, because that's just how I roll. Because that's how generous I am. You may not have asked for my opinion, but I'm going to contribute it anyway, because I am that generous. Yeah. Oh. Sometimes I'm a little bit nutty. Somebody once asked me, do you want to have some nuts? I said, I can't eat nuts. They said, why not? Are you allergic? I said, nah, it's cannibalism. So, there you go. Really? That good, huh, Brian? I bet you won a prize for that. Did your mom put it on the refrigerator? sadly, when I was growing up, I always wanted to win an art contest. And all I ever got was honorable mention, honorable mention, honorable mention. I was so mad. And then they would have the nerve to spell my name wrong. It wasn't hard. It was just Spooner. Like, you know, the spoon that you eat with and then an ER at the end. But they would always put it as Spencer. I was like, what? You used to have art skills? That's awesome. What did you do with them? Did you throw them away? Or have you just not used them in a while? So there's a difference. You don't really lose them. If you had them, you can always revitalize them. You're not good at visualizing the layer of things, though. That comes with practice. It really does. The more you do it, the more you get. And with watching other people and learning from them. You know, as I was pointing out to people, I spent a little bit of time this week learning to create custom Photoshop brushes because it speeds up your work process. It makes it easier to make more detailed drawings with less effort and time, which is, you know, always something that is a factor. So if you spend even 10 minutes, you know, a week learning a technique that makes you just 1% better, well, that makes you 100% better over 100 days or 100 weeks. So 2 years and you'll be 100% better than where you were. Kind of like with music. He who wants to get better at music does not do so by looking at the guitar, wistfully sighing and saying, oh, I wish I could be better. Which is my preferred technique for improvement. Which is probably why I haven't made much progress in my guitar skills. Because wistfully looking at the guitar and lamenting that you're not very good does not equate to progress in playing music. You actually have to pick the thing up and practice, Brandy. Pick the thing up and practice. Which actually, to be fair, when we get to Morris and have a little more cash and I have a little more free time, one of my goals is to enroll in lessons and get somebody to sit down and help me learn to play. I will probably not be a virtuoso, but you know, few people are, so there's that. Can't be good at everything. Who else would be good at anything? It's not fair to people. Gotta spread those skills out somewhere. You never pushed yourself either, just kind of did the same style cartoon over and over again? I know, there's that P word, right? The whole practice thing. It's almost sacrilegious. Who wants to do that? Who wants to practice when you can just, you know, show up and goof off? But seriously. Getting good at things is always going to take practice. Practice, practice, practice. But you guys are my favorite people because you show up consistently to watch me practice. And I can't figure out it's because you're masochists and you like torturing yourselves, or if you're silently placing bets on how bad it will turn out, you know? No, just kidding. I have some skill in this area. It's so funny because one of the main reasons I took graphic design courses with the Art Institute when I was younger was because I wanted to build games. I wanted to become I wanted to actually become a game developer, but I didn't think that I could do it because my math skills, and so, but I did know I could do art. So when they offered the game art major, I was like, okay, well, I want to do that, but my company wouldn't pay for that, but they would do tuition reimbursement for graphic design. And I figured the two were, coincided enough that maybe I could parlay the one into the other. So I started taking the graphic design uh, side of the Art Institute, and that's how I got part of the way through a degree in graphic design. And then I came back when I got my associates in elementary education. I realized, games are a perfect way to teach. So I decided I wanted to learn to do educational games. So I enrolled in their game art and design program. And that was about the time that I figured out that my son wasn't handling mommy being a full-time employee, a full-time student very well, because, well, quite frankly, I wasn't juggling my parent duties very well in that time. And so his behavior started going off the rails, which led me to the conclusion that, you know what, I will shelve my efforts to get a degree in order to make sure he gets the attention he needs. And so that's how that worked. And then 2019, I wanted to create a game for writers. A massive multiplayer online game for writers to teach people writing skills so I could balance my love of gaming with my love of writing and maybe be more productive at the same time. But I couldn't get a coder that I knew, 2 coders that I knew interested in helping. So that's okay though, because what that pushed me to do was decide, you know what, if I want the dream bad enough, I should just go out there and learn to do it myself. And I did. I went out there and I learned to code, all because I couldn't get the help from other people. So all of that is to say that if you want something bad enough, you'll go get it. Other people should not be your excuse why you didn't. Don't let them be. This tree needs to be fleshed out, so let's turn off those so I can focus on this one over here. Now, I'm sure this is so boring watching all these trees be... I can't imagine it's very entertaining. But, if it is, and it's therapeutic to you, hooray, I've done some good with my art. At least hope the conversation's entertaining. Or enlightening. If I can't be entertaining, let me be enlightening. Speaking of enlightening, something cool happened today. I got invited to speak at a women's conference that's taking place on the 31st of this month. I'll be speaking at 7 a.m. in the morning. Online, obviously. This would be a heck of a way to travel. But yeah, so that's cool. Giving a little 5-minute inspirational speech. I have not yet chosen the exact topic. I have a general idea of what I want to teach, or what I want to speak about, but be watching for that, because I'll put a community post about it, so y'all can watch it online if you choose to. I can't dazzle you with brilliance, I can at least baffle you with bullshit. Well, it's true. If you pick one and be good at it. Me, I was born with the initials BS, so, that's something I was always good at. That's why I became a writer. It's a legally acceptable way of BSing everybody. And people appreciate it and pay you money for it. Even though they know you're doing it. They know everything you're telling them is BS, but they appreciate it, and they pay you for it. And who could ask for anything more? So how's life in your corner of the world, Mr. Searching for Tone? Mr. Brian? Coding is no joke, but actually, you know what? Learning to code built my confidence in a lot of areas, and it's really about problem solving more than anything. It's basically figuring out how things work together and how to break them down into the smallest piece. And interestingly enough, it gave me new insights into Genesis 1 that I never would have gotten if I hadn't learned to code. Because, before I learned to code, I read it like everybody else does. It's just, okay, this is, some ancient poetry and blah, 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 and it's great stuff. Okay, fine. God, ordained it, whatever. And I started coding, and it looks to me more like a developer's log, like, what a coder's log would look like. And every time he says, and it was good, it's him having tested that particular piece of code to make sure it was functioning before he moves on to the next section. And, I started doing the research into physics, and I figured out, yeah, okay, so Genesis 1:3, let there be light, and everybody's like, yeah, see, ha, 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 that's funny. He creates light on day 1, but he doesn't create the sun, the moon, and the stars until day 4. And of course, because if you study quantum physics, you realize that the first thing he would have to create is light, because photons are light. And you can't have the sun, the moon, and the stars without photons. In fact, you can't have anything in this universe without photons and electrons and quarks. Those all come before a sun, a moon, and a star would come. And as a game developer, you learn about prototyping. So the Earth may not be the literal center of our universe, but they may very well have been the first planet created as a prototype of all the other ones that came afterward. And suddenly, Genesis 1 made a lot more sense to me than it ever had before. So learning to code gave me unique insights that I would not have had otherwise, and I'm quite grateful for that for that journey, I should say. It caused me to see things in a whole new way. And yes, it also helps me talk to developers. Now I understand better why we would tell me, well, you can't do that. It doesn't work that way. And I just thought he was being obtuse and, not wanting to do what I wanted. Now I understand why sometimes he would say that it doesn't work that way. But I also know enough to now know how to kind of find some workarounds that I may think of that he didn't. And not to let that stop me, but to think through different ways of doing things. If it can't be done that way, how else could it be done? And really, it kind of helped me take control of my own journey and stop blaming other people for when I couldn't get things done. Which, it's a relatively easy thing to blame other people. It's far more comfortable. But it's not very practical. I always think that, when you're blaming other people, when you're busy blaming other people for what you can't have or can't do or what you don't get, you're really telling them that they have the power over your life. And I refuse to turn power over to people like that at this late age in my life. I don't want to give people that kind of power. Ah, yes, Ubi's great allergy explosions. He's still, poor guy, suffering so much with the allergies. You know what? We don't actually need that. I can kind of trim this. Come back in here and basically trim these because they're not going to be visible anyway. There's no real need to have them there. Control D. Deselects. Control D deselects. Just so you know. If you're ever wondering. Yeah. Let me put our path back. There's that. Now we've got our river back. Yay for the river. I've got our other tree. Hooray for that tree. This tree is what needs work. So now we know which tree we need to focus on next. And of course we got our gates. And not to be mistaken with Bill or Melinda. And our crows. And that's how things are shaping up in the river. So in the forest so far. Yes. And it is 7:30, so this will probably be the last thing we work on for this stream. I'm going to turn everything off so I can once again focus on what I want to get done. Caw-caw! Yes, poor Ubi. He has gotten like 3 hours of sleep, so he should be oodles of fun tonight. Whew. It hit 85 degrees today and the tree pollen count is high. Yes, that's Ubi's experience. Trees are blooming. They're calling out to their mates, come. Giving their tree style mating calls and making Ubi miserable in the meantime. He says the tree pollen is trying to kill him. It's not personal. It's not personally out to get him, but it sure can feel like it. I am the kind of girl who loves landscapes. I don't know if you guys could tell, because a lot of mine involve landscapes. But, I love landscapes. I love doing landscapes. I just love nature in general. And I find it infinitely interesting. Trees, grass, yes, everything wants to mate to... It's spring! It's spring! Time to get it on! Time to have little tree babies! Little grass babies! Hey, bud. And none of that is good for people with allergies.
Not subscribed to Only Pollen.
Only pollen. Ubi says he did not subscribe to Only Pollen. It was not his idea of a good time. Yeah, on the other hand, you gotta appreciate Mother Nature. Where would we be without her? Trees, grass are bad, but ragweed is the worst. Yeah. Tree pollen is what kills Oobs. Tree pollen is the worst for him. He just... his nose goes berserk. Now, what I'm really grateful for is it hasn't turned to sinusitis yet, which is sometimes the next stage in that whole cycle. That's when it really blows. Yay! Trees, beautiful trees. Branching out everywhere. I have my own sets of allergies, but the tree pollen doesn't really seem to do much to me. I'm grateful for that. So we will be closing the stream in approximately 8 minutes to make sure that everybody has time to get over, get themselves settled in, get some popcorn popped, some pretzels, Jack, some Diet Coke, perhaps. Oh no! Ubi's threatening to do a nude stream. He says it's gonna be hot in here. Like, oh my. It's gonna be rated R for sure. It's a good thing it's past our little girl's bedtime. Nudie Ubi stream. Boy, bae. They call him the steak. If you're a meat lover, he's got some meat for you. Like my, I can imagine Mary over there, you know, presenting Jesus, talking about Jesus to people. Have I got a son for you? Oh, your son's a doctor. That's nice. How nice for you. My son, he raises people from the dead. Can your son do that? Yeah. No? Oh. My son, he can walk on water. Can your son do that? Yeah, I didn't think so. Somewhere, I'm going to have offended somebody. But really, are you living if you haven't offended somebody yet? I joke that Catholic mothers are second only to Jewish mothers in the ability to incur guilt in their children, and that's only because Catholic mothers have only had 2,000 years to practice, and Jewish mothers have had 6. But Catholic mothers are catching up fast. Jewish mothers had better get on the ball. I can imagine the scene at the wedding feast at Cana. Mary comes up to Jesus. She says, Jesus, they have no wine. He says, Mother, what is this to us? She says, do whatever he tells you to. It's like, he's a good boy. He's going to do what I ask. Yay, we're almost finished with this tree. This naked trees all over the forest. Oh no! What can you do? Naked trees, man. Put some shoes on. Put some clothes on. No, they took them off for the winter. Trees must love the cold. You got a reason with that, right? You know, if the leaves are their clothes, they strip down for winter. They must love the cold. Oh, it's winter. Let's get naked. They put clothes on in the summer, in the spring. They strip them off in the winter and throw them all over the ground. Like little heathens. Which I suppose they are. How's that for nothing? Heathen trees. course, you know, they do everything backwards from people anyway. They breathe in what we breathe out. Yay! Hooray! Got our trees. It's looking more tree-like. The scene is looking more sceney. More scenic, I should say. It's good. It's coming along very well. Shh. Cancel that. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's when they start shooting at you. Alright. Let's see how we got going on here. Yeah. And thanks to Linda for her suggestion. Oh, that tree still needs to be worked on. Yeah, we're not finished with our trees. We'll have to wrap those up next session, I guess. But we can at least look more at what the forest looks like. And there's our crows, thanks to Linda's suggestion. Whoop! There we go. That is our session for tonight. If you have anything that you are promoting or would like people to know about, do pop it in the chat. And don't forget to join me for Real Talk Thursday nights. I will pop the link to the next Real Talk and let you know how to get us over there. Would love to see you if you have the time. And I will give in updates as to our status and what we've got going on in our lives and where we are with our fundraiser and all that good stuff on the next Real Talk. And of course, Saturdays are writing and chatting. All right. Thank you guys for joining me for this fun expedition into the forest. I can already see some things that I want to adjust and correct, but I'm pretty happy with how it's coming together. Like those crows, man, they are just disappearing. Their little heads are just disappearing into the background. But anyway, yes, see you in Ubi's stream. Thank you so much for